Okay, we're going to start with chapter 4. This is a really important chapter for you because it's the early stages of group development and also the pre-forming stage, which is what we're going to talk about first. Because pre-group formation is what you'll be doing for your group proposals. So if you look on page 78 in your text, you can see pre-group issues formation of the group. Pre-planning is essential for you to figure out what kind of population you're going to serve, how many people are going to be in your group, what kind of rules you're going to have, etc. The student manual, why I wanted to add that this year is because it goes into great detail in a lot of ways that you need to assist you with your skills and your knowledge. So on page 50 in your student manual, suggestions for writing a proposal for group. So that's what you're doing, remember, for your paper. In your actual presentation, you have to have a rationale and methods when you come up with a group proposal. There are many different kinds of groups, and you want to have this in writing. You want to tailor your proposal for a unique setting and population and provide a clear and comprehensive picture of what you intend to accomplish in your group. Think of a group you would like to organize. Once you decided on a particular type of group, a group for parents who want to understand, like a parenting group, a group for children in elementary school, adolescents, adults, that can help you to determine the structure of your group. We're going to talk about this in class, but here are these questions to help you to write that group proposal. In years past, I haven't been particularly impressed with everyone's group proposals, because I think there was a lack of understanding. So I hope you will read all of these questions so that you understand. I tried to kind of help you guys already. We were talking, I think, about Taylor, her population, and researching what kind of groups would go good with that population. That's really interesting because you can see, okay, how would I formulate this? And how do I start a group? I mean, you don't just put up a sign and you have to screen, and you don't just get people in from all walks of life with all sorts of diagnoses. You have to have a specific population and a common goal. And what type of group will it be? What will your setting be? How many times will you see them? What will the costs be? What are your qualifications? What is the training? Will your group be voluntary or involuntary? So please read through all of those when you're thinking about forming that group and writing that paper. Then, after you do the proposal, you're going to announce the group and recruit members. Most of the time, if you have a closed group, you would have a rationale for screening members. So you would want your group people to meet the criteria that you have set for your group. It's ethical to screen for group. We don't always get that luxury, but it is important, if you can, to do that, to see who is appropriate for your group setting. It will definitely lessen the psychological risk of someone who is participating in your group. It could, you want your group to work well. So the core reason why you're having the group needs to be universally accepted by the members who are attending. Potential members also screen you. They want to know, they should be, seeing if it's a good fit for them or not. People who are highly aggressive or hostile may not be a good fit. So screening measures for those types of issues could be important. Severe mental health disorders, things that could be dysregulating for them. We don't want it to be counterproductive for the people who are attending the group. I've already talked about this. Pre-group meeting, use of a pre-group meeting to meet with them before. I'll tell you this, the way that I incorporated these ethics into drug court was probably a beautiful thing. I don't know if they still do it, but the way that I did this, I did a pre-group meeting and I had them complete the first lesson in the book together and I went over everything. Sometimes would even introduce them to the group, go over the group rules, etc. And I would orient them, almost do a group orientation with them for orienting them to go into the actual mandated substance abuse group. It was quite helpful and desensitized them to the actual process. It also helped me to get to know them better, because often before that happened, they would just show up and say, oh, here I am, right? I have no idea, maybe not looked at a file yet. I have no idea what I'm dealing with. If I meet with the individual for a couple sessions, I think it was 2 sessions I met with them before, I can help them get ready for group and also prepare me as the group leader. There's multicultural considerations in prepping them, right? So very important piece. And then I could help them assimilate into that group and help us to get back to working stage more quickly. You won't always have that luxury at the sites that you're in, though. And more about screening, Yalom gives you a great, and I've almost used Yalom's book, and I love Yalom for group, and you're going to see his quotes throughout here. And I believe I put it as a supplementary text. I would love to use Yalom, but it scares me because I know this is so K-CREP aligned. So the beauty of Yalom is that I feel like it's a better text, but the caveat is that I want to make sure we get everything in for K-CREP and for your NCE and CPCE test. So at the bottom of page 72, Yalom does a great job listing poor candidates for a heterogeneous outpatient intensive therapy group like brain damage, paranoid clients, hypochondriac, addicted to drugs, acutely psychotic. And I've mentioned some of these, but in terms of criteria for inclusion, Yalom contends that the client's level of motivation to work is usually the most important variable. So being motivated in the stages of change, being highly motivated to work is a great factor for joining your group. But you have to make sure that you're screening out for these things and being careful if you can, right? And then, of course, the guidelines for orienting new members. We just talked about that. Helping them, the pre-group meeting, meeting with them, having that private screening, and talking with them about their fears about group and normalizing it, and talk about confidentiality. In addition to this private interview, sometimes you use that as your screening device to see if that person really is going to be a good fit for the group. And I kind of talked about that already in what I did. The multicultural considerations, making sure that people feel comfortable in a group like that. And of course, we don't always have that luxury, but it could conflict with values, and make sure that you're aware of that. Guidelines for orienting members to a group. So your first group meeting can kind of be called your pre-group meeting, because after you've done the individual work, then you all come together, and you'll see me do this. You may go over informed consent, start group rules, have clients talk about their fears and expectations in group. Maybe starting to go over the way the group is going to work and expectations for them. And just making sure that they are fully oriented to start the group. Also, just making sure also as your practical concerns in the formation of a group, open versus closed, voluntary versus involuntary, where are you meeting, what's your group size going to be, what are the frequency and the length of the meetings, is it short or long term? Those are all things you're going to need to put in your paper. It's very detailed. Is it homogeneous, heterogeneous, which one, what is it going to be like? So please read this chapter, practical concerns and formation of a group, with the student manual, so that you understand that all of those components need to be in your group proposal paper. All right, so we've started, right? We've done the pre-group, the orientation piece, and now we are in the initial stage, which is really the beginning, right? Where we're actually going to start to do the work. And this is what is called stage 2 in this textbook. So we're going to talk about the characteristics of the initial stage. This is when people are getting acquainted. It is when you're going to see the persona, right? The public image. What kind of mask do we show everyone else? A lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity. Think about just when you started our classes in the fall, and maybe how you feel differently now because you know us, you know what to expect. You're not quite as nervous and you know your cohort more. But at first you were highly, highly anxious. So think about that. We really have been in a group for a while with your cohort. Now you're split into some classes and such, but you are together for the most part. Finding an identity in this group, beginning to formulate trust. Some of the questions asked by group members are, can I risk? Can I trust? Do I fit in? Do I belong? But the foundation of this stage is trust. It is vital to begin to facilitate trust so that we can then start working. And how do you do that? How do you start to establish trust? Well, part of it is in the selection, but if you don't get to selection, then we have to come up with ways that we can facilitate trust, starting with the leader. Structured, know what's going to happen, know the rules, know the safety, try to understand the beginning, the middle, the end of each group, and help facilitate trust between the members in the group, and making sure that you're stopping people from giving helpful advice. You are helping to draw out and cut off and deal with conflict in an open way where everyone can be honest with one another. Additionally, your role as the group leader, like Coach just said, you are the model. You're modeling how to be. If you get agitated and upset or mad, then how are they going to feel? If you get, if you feel like you've got to have power, and remember, don't get confused with the personal power I've referenced. That doesn't mean you're power hungry. That means you have a presence as the leader, and you definitely need that in a substance abuse group. But it doesn't mean that you're not loving and not using Rogers core conditions. That's not what I'm saying. You are modeling how to be genuine and how to be authentic with them. And you're attending to the thoughts and the feelings of the group environment. The milieu is a word, the therapeutic milieu. That's a word you need to know. So that is your role. You also help identify client goals. Your role is important. And one way to think about this stage is the forming stage. This is this is like the beginning of building rapport and trust in your individual session. This is very similar, but you have a whole group of people you're dealing with here. So you have to ask questions, bring things to the here and now, make yourself known, some self-disclosure, receive feedback, listen, respond honestly, concretely, deal with conflict, deal with the feelings in the group, decide what to work on. The flow of the group is up to you. The group process, the timing of the things that are coming out, and dealing with things that are unforeseen that are not occurring. One of the things that I ask is that you're timely for groups when we start. I will not allow you to come in. One of the things that I do to establish trust is to make absolutely certain that we're not interrupted. So once we start group, and when we're starting our group next week, I'll be really respectful of the people who are there. And if you're going to be late, I ask that you wait and don't come in until we're done and we come and get you, because we are in our process and people are sharing, and you weren't there for that, so you don't get to hear the rest. That's not fair. And for fun, maybe one time I will let someone come in just so you can see. If someone's late, I may let you see how that rocks it. It just completely derails the whole process. It's so interesting because everyone maybe has already been vulnerable and that we've already formed for the day. And then someone comes in, the whole energy changes and everything shifts. So, maybe one day I will let someone in just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it's an interesting, but you're in charge, right? You've got to model that behavior. The responsibility of co-leading, the responsibility of the way that you're structuring the group, and then your style of leadership, the way I just said all that. Okay, cool. So summary of the initial stage of group, because there's not a lot of slides in this one. So I know you're excited, but I sure am talking a lot. Let's just summarize, because these are in your text. So you're going to make sure the atmosphere is good. Everyone's getting acquainted, understanding how group works, what's expected, what are the rules. I actually invite members to help me with the rules so that they feel empowered, that we have, risk taking is expected, but socially appropriate behavior, meaning we don't hurt people or make fun of people, that we build our trust, to normalize what the normal feelings are about being included or excluded or feeling mistrust, and that's a process. There are a lot of problems that can come up, and how to navigate this. So make sure you look at that, and also what you're doing as a leader. You're teaching ground rules, setting norms, you're assisting in expressing fears. We're modeling facilitative therapeutic behavior. We're being open and present, clarifying the division of responsibility, helping clients establish goals, teaching basic skills, and assisting with thinking versus feeling and active listening techniques. So those are the things you're doing. And so when you guys are leading your groups, you can look back and think, okay, what stage are we in? Because we'll be in this stage for a little bit, right? And we make a first faster. I'm going to do like the pre-group and all of that and the initial stage. And the next person that goes will probably still be in initial stage. And then we'll go into what is called the transition stage, which is next. It's the next stage. It's a time for dealing with reluctance. So let's look at the characteristics of the transition stage. We still got a lot of anxiety going on. So again, this transition stage has increased anxiety and defensiveness. It's kind of like storming. Anxieties start to come out, deeper work can start, because initially you're not willing to express, but then people start to express. I wonder whether these people really understand me. I don't know how much I have in common. What good will it do if I'm in here? These are the characteristics of the stage in anxiety. What if I lose control? What if I cry? What if I open something I can't shut? What if I take the lid off of this? A lot of times people have worked really hard to keep all their eggs in their basket, and it's scary to think about them coming out. So I have to be really careful here and understand the conflict and deal with it constructively. Recognizing and dealing with any kind of conflict is really important. You can't ignore it, and you have to handle it delicately. Not talking too much, dominating can be a problem. Let's see, if you seem self-righteous, or like a computer, taking care, rescuing, that kind of thing. A lot of times conflicts happen with you, the group leader, at this point. Some comments you may hear could be, no matter what I do, I have a feeling I'll never be enough to please you. You don't really care about us personally. You're just doing a job. You don't give us enough freedom. You control everything. I feel like you aren't willing to accept a no. It's helpful to distinguish between a challenge and an attack. It's important for you to understand how you're going to handle this and not be affected. Some helpful interventions. Hold on. Just one sec. Please make sure you read about the transition stage on 54 and 55 in your student manual. I also have the DVD that accompanies this. My only issue is trying to make sure I can play that. I'm going to bring my other computer so I can play that for you in class, and hopefully we can get that worked out. But please make sure you look at these phrases. These will help you when we get, there's the initial phrases that you can use where you're starting out in the transition stage. For instance, imagine that this is the last chance you have to change your life. Rather than questioning people, would you say, would you say what is prompting you to ask your questions rather than questioning people? Sorry, guys. Rather than questioning people, would you say what is prompting you to ask your questions? Like, rather than telling others your solutions to problems, consider saying more about the problems you are struggling with. How would it be for you if you continued the rest of your life the way you are now? What are you willing to do with the tension you feel? I'm aware that several of you are hesitant to become involved. Do you have any reactions to my observation? These are great. Just read over this. Those are things you can say when you're leading your group. And then when you go into practicum and internship and you're leading groups, you'll have this manual. And you can go back and remind yourself, what are some questions? Because sometimes in the moment, we can get caught up and forget that we have all these questions we could ask that are very powerful, and give us kind of a guideline. Then you move into page 56, 57, 58. I want you to look over those. I do have that DVD. And like I said, we can watch that DVD together. And also I'll be doing it with you guys. So we'll be good to go on that. Okay, so read chapter 3 and 4, listen to these lectures, and review your student manual. And I think that's it. Make sure you're attending your groups. Don't forget to do that. Some of you sent me your group attendance. The groups are, I think, just maybe one of you. So please tell me what you're going to be attending. Start attending. And then also be thinking about that group proposal. So you're going to have to give me a topic in the next couple weeks. So that is that. All right. Stay dry. Sun, are you going to come back out? We will now if I use this lecture next year, this will make no sense. It'll probably be sunny. But anyway, this is the 2021 recording, and it has been raining for days and days, and it's cold. And we all need a little sun. Everybody needs a little sun. All right, that's it.